On a disturbing incident in Kano, 24-year-old Hafsat Sirajo, a housewife residing in Ongwa Uku Quarters, Tarauni local government area of Kano State, has been apprehended for the alleged murder of her driver, Nafiu Hafiz. The police commissioner, Mohammed Hussein Gumel, disclosed that Hafsat confessed to the single-handedly committing the crime by repeatedly stabbing the victim with a knife. The arrest extended to include her husband, Yabu Abdullahi, age 38, and their guard, Malam Adam, age 65, on charges of aiding and concealing the deceased body in an attempt to cover up the culpable homicide offense.
Welcome back, guys. I trust you've been staying safe. I wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year, and I hope that the years ahead of you are much better than the ones that have come to pass. Today's true crime story again is taking us to Nigeria, and this is a case which is still under investigation. It's still unfolding, but I have a feeling that the narrative out there may actually change, because for me, it doesn't make so much sense. And maybe after I'm done with my presentation, you will let me know whether you agree with me or not. So today's true crime story is about a housewife who actually wanted to end her life but was saved by a friend of the family who also doubles as a driver to the family, who actually stays in the same house with them. But after he saved her, she turned on him and then took his life. Yeah. Initially, when I was looking into this case, I thought that maybe it would be a case of mental health or she having some form of mental challenge. But it turns out that there is more to the story, where allegedly there is an amount of money involved, which is expected to change hands between the husband of this woman and then this friend of theirs, who also doubles as their driver. You see where the whole thing is going? All right, so let's get into the issue, and maybe you can help me make some sense of what has been put out there so far. So, this housewife and her husband were actually staying at a town in Nigeria called Kano. And her name is Hafsat Sirajo. Forgive me if you are not so familiar, but I think this is a Muslim family and a Muslim couple. So her name is Hafsat Sirajo, and the other person that she is involved in this case with is by name Nafiu Hafiz Gorondo. Nafiu Hafiz, is the victim in this case. Okay, take note of the names. And then Sirajo's husband is a friend to Nafiu. Now her husband is called Yabu Abdullahi, and he is 38 years old, and his wife Sirajo is just 24 years old. I hope you are getting the whole details of what this is. Okay, so on this fateful day, the husband was not around, and then Nafiu, his friend, who is actually staying with them and also doubling as their driver, happens to see his wife allegedly trying to take her life. Now, this is according to what his wife is saying after she was arrested when Nafiu's corpse was found. She is saying that she wanted to end her life, but then Nafiu prevented her from doing so. So, on the blind spot of Nafiu, she turned on him and she took his life. Nafiu, unfortunately, is not with us on this earth to give his version of the story. So, all we have is what the wife, who is actually confessing to having committed the crime, is saying. But this is where it gets tricky, because investigations actually reveal that Nafiu was not just a friend of the family and their driver, but he was also a business partner to the husband of Sirajo, That's Dayabu. So the victim was a business partner to the alleged culprit's husband. And it turns out that the husband of this alleged culprit, Sirajo, actually owed some money, allegedly, to the victim. Somewhere in about the 25 million naira thereabout. Now, when she took Nafiu's life, after he had actually helped prevent her from taking her own life, her husband came back and he didn't report the issue. Per the reports out there, he actually helped her in the company of their gate man or their security man. They helped her to hide the body. Upon their arrest eventually, the husband is also saying that he didn't help her hide the body, but then he called the family of the deceased and they told him to perform the necessary rites, wash his body, and put him to rest. So you begin to understand what I mean by this whole case doesn't make sense. If it makes sense to you, let me know in the comment section. What do you think the angle on this case is? Because it's still evolving. And like I said, I think the facts out there may change, or the details that are coming out may change eventually, because here are the aspects of the case I have a problem with. The first is that, one, how does it make sense that someone who is going to attempt to end her life is saved by somebody, and then she turns on the person who saved her and takes his life? Yeah, someone would say, so the same mental state that was driving her to take her life drove her to do that against the person who saved her. Okay, granted. But if that was the case, why didn't she turn on herself after she was done with the person who saved her? Because after all, that was the initial plan she wanted to execute, right? Yeah, that is where my first question is. It doesn't add up. If you were so bent on ending yourself, why didn't you do so after you ended the life of the one who saved you? So that, to me, is the first red flag about the narrative that this self-confessed, or let me say alleged self-confessed housewife Sirajo is putting out. And then two, how come this was not reported to the police and also to the family of the victim? Now, the husband, Dayabu, is saying that he actually called the family of the deceased, that he called the parents of the deceased, and they told him to do the necessary rites and then put him to sleep. So I don't think that is going to be difficult to prove, because a phone call will definitely leave a trace. But then, what happened afterwards? Because you know that this is someone who didn't pass away under natural circumstances. His life was taken. So even if you called the family, you still needed to have lodged a complaint officially. But of course, that would have meant he's reporting his own wife. So he didn't do that. And he just buried this guy. That alone is another suspicion in itself. Even if the parents had allegedly told you to bury their son, if they actually did that, I'm expecting they should have been there for the ceremony. You are putting their son to rest. They won't see him again. At least a representative of their family, I'm sure, would have wanted to be there. That also did not happen. And the third thing is, it turns out that, per allegations, the husband of the self-confessed killer owed money to the victim. Now, help me make sense of all this. Because it looks like, or it's looking more like a crime of convenience. Because after it was all said and done, the husband came to see what his wife had done. But then, he engaged his gate man or his security man to serve as an imam to perform certain rites, and then they just disposed of the victim and gave him a burial. So this case is still evolving. As it stands now, the wife, Hafsat Sirajo, has actually been arrested. Nafiu Hafiz, the victim, is already buried, but the police are investigating, and they've also taken custody of the husband, not necessarily arresting him, but the husband, Dayabu Abdullahi, is also assisting the police with their investigation, same as the agate man by name Malam Adam, and he is 65 years old. 65 years old. And the self-confessed culprit, Hafsat Sirajo, the wife, is 24 years old, and her husband is 38 years old. So I'm expecting this 65-year-old security man to have been the wisdom on premises to steer this young couple in the right direction, that, hey, irrespective of whatever has happened, let's do the right thing. But another person will also argue, don't forget, he is their employee. And if you are familiar with the annals of these rules in some African homes, the gate man or the security man is like the lowest ranking person in the house. So he has no power to speak truth to his or her superiors for fear of losing his job, or even for fear of losing his life, because after all, the woman of the house has already allegedly taken a life. So how dare you go against her? You might be next. So to an extent, someone would appreciate why he also kept quiet and went along with it. Or unless he actually had a benefit in there, and maybe he was even an accomplice in that. Because as it stands now, the whole narrative is hinged on what the culprit is saying. There's no other way to provide any counter story unless the police are able to conclude their investigation and get other angles of this case that the current narrative does not give. I don't know if that'll be possible, but let's see how this case goes. It's still unraveling. This case is barely 48 hours old, and as it stands now, Hafsat Sirajo, the wife at the center of all this, is under arrest. Now, my fourth question also is, why was she suicidal? What drove her to that point? These are all questions that should come up. And how long has it been that way? Because these guys, they are friends. You see pictures of them showing. You see pictures of Hafsat Sirajo and the victim, Nafiu Hafiz Gorondo. You see pictures of them rolling in the video. They are friends. They are family friends. They are staying together under the same roof. So I don't think it takes nothing for her to just turn on him like that with a knife. I think there are deeper sentiments in this case that they are refusing to let us know. And I'm hoping the police will get to the bottom of it. I am suspecting that in the end, the narrative we are actually having now might change. It could be possible that Hafsat Sirajo might not have even done it at all, or she may not have even done it alone if she did it at all. And the motive might not even be because Nafiu saved her from ending her own life. It could be something else. It could be Nafiu was trying to make an advance on her. It could be about the alleged debt that her husband is owing to Nafiu, which Nafiu's parents have allegedly also confirmed and even alluded that the wife's husband was struggling to raise that money. So, like I said, it's an evolving case. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's see how it pans out. But hey, wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Thanks for supporting us so far. It's been a wonderful experience in 2023, and I'm hoping that 2024 will even be better for you. But then, as you celebrate the Xmas, please kindly do all to stay safe out there. Have fun, but keep an eye out. Catch you in the next one.